Welcome to Local Legends with Jess, the Arizona edition. I'm Jessica Benevento, your mortgage matchmaker, opening doors with ease and bringing you the stories behind Arizona's most inspiring people. From best-selling authors and elite athletes to business badasses making moves across the valley. These are the local legends shaping our communities. Get the inside scoop, real talk, and powerful conversations you won't hear anywhere else. Local Legends with Jess, where Arizona's stories connect. All right, welcome to Local Legends here with Jess and my co-host, Jason Cocuzza. Thanks for being here, Jay.
Thank you for having me,
It's
Jess.
wonderful.
I think we're equal now.
No, I'm still the host.
Okay.
So we have, Mr. Chris, we have such a special guest. We actually have our first guest who has flown in from New Jersey.
Right.
Like, this is wild. This is very special. We're big time now.
We are. And this is a big guest.
Yeah, this is big. So I have to read this because it's a lot. I mean, I would normally just introduce you as just a stud that I had a crush on like 20 years ago, but I'm not going there. I'm going to professionalize this episode. And today's guest went from Wall Street in the 90s to dealing with mafia-connected environments to Rikers Island to making one of the largest bail bonds in New York history, which is wild. And now he's largest. Yeah, that's insane. I remember this. And now he's building companies and pitching a TV series. So welcome, Chris Janish.
Thank you so much.
It's so great that you're here.
Thank you so much for having me. I was trying to figure out what you guys are trying to do with this thing. And then I started thinking about, well, what can it do for me? And I thought there was a great fit here. And I was very excited. And, I'm like Scottsdale's favorite son from my years of being out here.
Yeah.
My friends from home call me that. So
it's actually on the website here in Scottsdale.
it gave me a reason to come out here.
Yeah.
Spend some time with you. And I want to bring you a copy.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Which I have read.
Yes. And you actually named it.
Yes.
You did name it.
And there's a little message and signature in there, but you don't have to look at it.
Okay.
All right.
This is
Great picture of you.
Vindication.
You did this.
I did. That's my first book. Yes.
Okay, let's jump into it because there's a lot to
Oh my
unpack
God.
here.
This is so exciting. Yeah, we don't have that much time. We have a lot.
So, Chris,
we might have to do a part 2 with Chris.
Maybe.
Yeah.
He'd love to fly out. It's a great idea.
Okay.
But let's start out with your early days, right?
Yep.
You grew up in New Jersey, but you actually grew up in Newark, New Jersey, correct?
Well, started, my family did.
Yeah.
Which all of our families did. And that's part of the story is, but originally grew up in Union, which is right near Newark and, Valesburg and the Irvington border. And there was some, there was some crime coming in there. And then we moved up to the West Essex communities, which Essex County is part of Newark, Jersey's largest city. And it was in the burbs. It was, kind of escaped the crime like a lot of people. And there was a lot of common people there that grew up in Newark. And even though we weren't in the city, we had that same upbringing out in the suburbs.
Call it down neck, right?
Down neck,
Yeah.
on the ass,
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm sure you met and heard some really interesting stories about some of the people down there.
Well, what was interesting, I'm a kid, this is in the early 70s, and I had a profound moment. I had saw a mugging on my street of an old woman, old lady. I was like 5 years old. I'm getting interrogated. It was a little scary. And so we moved out. And, at that time, and we would walk everywhere. And now it's a bad neighborhood, right? It's kind of turning then. And so we got to this place where I thought was safe. We got woods where, it's a big block. Everybody's playing outside. And then there's this prevailing theme going on about this mob and the mafia. And somebody was murdered at the end of the block at this house. And I'm like, what the hell's going on here? I'm a kid, but I remember this.
Yeah.
And that was the first influence of what the mafia was in the underworld, which originated out of Newark and obviously New York City. And it just became commonplace very early on. The people we were growing up with, our friends, our family, cousins, and it all just became normal, just kind of like the way The Sopranos is.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was my first introduction into what was organized crime.
Okay.
How old are you then?
5 years old.
Okay.
Yeah,
So that's when you moved. That's when you moved out of Newark.
Yeah,
and then it was more the mob scene.
Yeah, it was. I mean, there was a notorious murder on my block.
Okay.
A hit that was detailed in a story that you might remember called To Drop a Dime.
Oh, yeah.
Which was, kind of an infiltration of the Campisi family. And it was chronicled in a book, which was To Drop a Dime is what we call a rat,
Yeah.
And
I just got that.
yeah. And when you look at the if you actually try to buy the book, it's like $1,500 because there's not enough copies. And so it's an interesting story, but that was kind of the feel in the 70s and into the 80s
Right.
and through my high school years. And, knowing these people and they're friends of mine and
Right.
their kids and their wives and, and it just all became normal. It was just all normal.
So what does that look like? Like we hear it and we see The Sopranos and we obviously all grew up around it. What does that really look like? Like, were you involved in that? Can I ask you that?
So you can ask me whatever you want.
Okay.
I told you, there's no.
Okay.
We're an open
Because
book. Right?
I just have to say, I always wished my father's family was in the mob. I know
That's just because you see what's on TV.
I thought I wanted something cool and I got nothing.
Look, there's this sensationalism. It's hard to ignore. So I came from a broken home.
Okay.
Parents were divorced young, almost probably a year after I moved to the West Essex communities. So I had 5 kids. So I came, pretty much was on my own.
Right.
So I came accustomed to hustling at a very young age. And so this all was kind of normal. But I knew very early on that I didn't want to be involved in a life of, drugs. There was a lot of drugs back then.
Okay.
80s, crime, whatever it was. People were, even though it was a nice era, people were doing fucked up shit.
Right.
And, I kind of wanted to be a good kid and just kind of stay out of problems with my parents. And, the way I stayed away from that, it wasn't anything that I aspired to, but I did have respect for these guys and how they hustled and how they dressed and the cars. No different than you see in the movies, right?
Yeah.
You're a young kid, you're impressive. It cost my family a lot to get $20 sneakers. These guys had beautiful sweatsuits, beautiful cars, beautiful jewelry. So it's hard not to be impressionable. But where I kind of found my groove was in sports and athletics.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Segue to that. Do you feel that, and you were a very good wrestler in high school. So do you feel that discipline that it took to be a good wrestler helped you stay away from that because you just wanted to stay honed in?
No, 100%. I mean, that was, now everybody goes to college. You can get a grant. You can do this. It was a privilege to go away to school.
Right.
Nobody in my family went away to school.
You were the first one.
It's the first one.
Okay.
And, I could have went to college and stayed in New Jersey, commuted, but I wanted to go away. And the only way I was realistically going to do that, being the 4th out of 5, was to earn my way there. So that was my only goal, was doing enough in athletics. Wrestling ultimately took me there. I got a
JMU, right?
Division I scholarship to JMU, and wasn't fully paid. You don't get full scholarships, but it was enough for me to get there. And I had a great experience. Still talk to my wrestling coach this day, Peanut Boyer, Hall of Famer. And, after 5 years, was actually a political science major, loved the law. When you're at James Madison, who's, the father, the co-author of the Constitution, they have a focus and a respect for the Constitution. And I was thinking about going to law school, but after 5 years, you're
done with school.
Done.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, they're recruiting to go to Wall Street. Matt Lasher was a friend of ours. He interviewed for a job and he was already out. And he said, he goes, this isn't for me. He goes, I got a guy graduate, might be perfect for him. And next thing you know, I interview in April of 1993. I graduate. And after 3 weeks later, I'm starting on Wall Street, just like that. Boom.
So let's talk about that, because people see that movie, Wolf of Wall Street, and they look at it and crazy times.
Well, first off, what were you doing? What'd you get hired on Wall Street to do?
You were a broker, right?
It was broker. So, and it's the typical kind of boiler room, Wolf of Wall Street story.
Right.
Everybody starts at the bottom. I was making $200 a week, calling 2 phones a night, 500 calls a day, and just hustling. And, I could see right away, even on the interview, that there was money. I could smell it.
Yeah.
Right.
And
just like back in the day with the wise guys.
it was the same thing.
Yeah.
But it was legitimate.
Yes.
And I was so naive because I wasn't a finance major.
Right.
So I didn't know what an IPO was. I didn't know the difference between Goldman Sachs and A.S. Goldman. In my book, there's a funny story. I was a naive kid. You know, I was in the Shenandoah Valley in Virginia for 5 years, and within 3 weeks, I'm on Wall Street. And you're talking about a New York minute. I mean, stuff is moving so quick.
Right.
And you're on this floor, and you got these 20-year-olds to maybe 40-year-old guys. They're all dressed in suits. Who's getting their shoes signed? These beautiful women working there, and it's just like chaos. And it's just like, whoa, this is great.
Yeah.
I was all in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know? And
you always had an amazing work ethic. So
well, that's why they were hiring the athletes.
Yeah.
Because
Totally.
of the work. And listen, I was making no money, but and I was paying attention to everything. I got really lucky. I got hooked up with this guy, Joe Donahue, who was my mentor. You know, we had a ton of respect for him. And, you know, we were in a private office, so we weren't on the floor. But the same thing, you're smiling, dialing, calling people all day long. And I would say like, oh, that guy sounds pretty good on the phone. And they would tell me, oh, he's a piker broker. They would say piker. Because they had the Brooklyn accent. What's a piker? They're like, it's not piker, it's piker. Right. So, and he said, oh, he's a piker. He makes like $30,000 a month. And I'm like, 30,000? What about that guy? Hey, he's like 50, 60. What about the guys in the office? 100, 200 a month. And I'm like, is this real?
Right.
Is this real? I had guys leaving from JMU, these top finance guys going to DC and getting $40,000 a year jobs. And now I'm sitting here and these guys are making $40,000, $50,000
a month.
So I said, if I'm the worst guy, I'm going to be rich.
Yeah. Right.
And that's all I needed to tell myself.
That was it.
Yeah.
Okay. So how long did it take to move up the ranks of Wall Street?
All right. So this is really fascinating. You know, talk about the New York Minute again. So I get there in May of 93. I'm licensed in October of 93. I'm now, right away, I'm opening accounts under my boss's name.
Now, how many accounts do you have to give him before you're on your own?
It was 30, but with IPO accounts. But I opened up accounts my first 2 weeks. So I blew past that before I was even licensed.
Yeah.
And he ended up making me a partner. So things change. People are moving, they're going in and out. And so how quick does it go? So that was May of 93, I get licensed. I'm a broker. A bunch of guys leave. By April of 1994, I now am running my own crew. I'm like a branch manager.
How old are you?
I'm 23 years old.
Jesus.
And in the year 1994, my first full year on Wall Street, I made $491,000 on my W-2. That wasn't even included all the side deals. And that's how quick it happens. That's how quick it happens. And there was kids younger than me that were even ahead of that, you know? But I also could tell very quickly this wasn't real. There was a lot of volatility. People were in and out, like I said. And
right.
So, but I had
to pick up your sonar went up.
My sonar went up, but I had built the name very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I had built the following. I had a love for the business. The problem was I was, you know, I always say like, you know, there was older guy that kind of schooled me in the business. He says, you know, I'm too smart to make a lot of money in this business. I said, what do you mean? He goes,
stay under the radar?
No, he knew that what we were doing was shit and he couldn't get himself to buy in. Whereas the young guys, we just want to make money.
Exactly.
And I believed, I believed everything I was selling.
Sure.
But I didn't realize this was kind of like the underbelly of the street. This wasn't the top tier. These were smaller stocks and they would, you know, eventually most of them not work out. Some of them did. You know, I can't say they all didn't, but it was churn and burn, just try to make money. And it wasn't something that I felt good about.
So are you calling people, like you call me, I come up as a lead, you call me and you say, Jess, listen, I'm a broker. I have some stocks that I know are going to just kick ass. Yes. You need to buy shares. Yeah. And I say, all right, I have 100,000 in my 401k. I'm just going to give it to you, Chris. And then it goes up. I cash out or it goes down. I lose.
Never get out.
You never get
out. I always call it's like the Hotel California, you know, you could check out, but you can never leave. There wasn't like liquidity for these stocks. So let's say I put you in a stock and went up $2. Yeah. Hey, Jess, I got another one for you. I'm going to take that money. I'm going to put you into something else because I really can't get you out, right? Because there's no real liquidity in it. we're creating the market, right? This is the penny stock world.
Okay.
Are you trying to make money on the other deal?
Yeah. So now I'm trying to make money. Now I flip you into another, and I get you to send more money because you're hot, right?
And you're making money
hot.
off that money that I'm investing.
Yeah, you're hot and horny. I mean, not like sexually.
Well, so
like,
you knew her.
So you're like, hey, now I want you to send me another 100,000.
Right.
Well, I don't have it. Go find it. And this is where the aggressiveness.
These are the conversations that are literally happening. So this is what you see in the movies where everyone is on phones next to each other. And this is what you're doing. You're hard pressing people like, listen.
Yeah.
I got a quick story. That's funny. So I just graduated high school and I'm going out with Chris for the first time. And it's me, Gary, and maybe Chuck, maybe not. But we stop at his condo in West Orange and I have like $50 on me. And Chris is like, yo, do me a favor. Go in my closet in the shoe boxes, just grab money for tonight. I'm like, what? And in the shoe boxes, there was like 10 of them. There was just 20, 10s and 5s and singles. And I would just dip my hand in there, like $273. Like it was like crazy, but he would pick up the meal anyway. I'm like, I'm going out. I'm like, Chris, I have $270 from the end of the night. He's like, just keep it. I'm like, I just went out tonight, had probably one of the best nights of my life, and I made $270. I'm like, this is amazing.
Special thank you to Justin List from State Farm. Justin is our sponsor here at Local Legends with Jess and Jay. His mission is simple. He treats customers like family, provides real solutions, ensures every client feels confident, supported, and genuinely cared for. That level of intention and service is exactly why he's considered one of our favorite local legends here in Arizona. We're grateful for the support and proud to highlight Justin and his team for truly making a difference in our community.
So go ahead. From there, you crushed it.
Yeah, I'm crushing it. And then, so what happens is, Joe Donahue is
this is the mentor.
Just the mentor.
Okay.
He was really, what happened was the market crashed in 87 and there was this awesome Lehman Brothers office and it was very aggressive. It's pretty much the Lehman Brothers on Water Street was known as the original cold calling, but after the crash, they started to start to go to smaller firms. So a lot of the guys that trained me were actually at what we call white shoe firms, big firms. And Joe was there and Joe was like, this is bullshit. All these stocks are bullshit. They're not worth, their wallpaper. That's it. Stock certificates are wall. So we started a new firm called the Boston Group with a guy, Robert Domenico. You might remember the name. Yeah. Very impressive guy, old ex-Lehman guy, builds this incredible firm out on in LA on 1999 Avenue of the Stars, and we have an office on Wall Street. I'm 24 years old. I'm a partner, right? I'm like, and I'm going to LA, and he's living in Dean Martin's house, and we're hanging in the backyard, and he's like, yeah, the Rat Pack used to hang out here.
My gosh.
It's not even real, right? Yeah. And we bring a company public called Jerry's Famous Delis. Anybody that's from LA knows Jerry's. It's not a deli, it's a restaurant chain. And we moved, we left the firm, and it was going to be a hard transition. There was some mob extortions going on. Bo Dietl came into the pictures, craziness, right? But we get settled and we're going to build this firm the right way. Okay. Something we're going to be proud of for the rest of our lives. And I'm just so pumped. And, I got my team of guys where we didn't make any money for 3 or 4 months, but I'm going to have $1 million a month. 1 million. Yeah. No joke. It's all set up. And Jerry's Deli comes out and basically Robert Domenico, typical Wall Street screws his partners. He keeps all the money for himself.
Oh my God.
Very little money. Well, I maybe made $300,000-$400,000. Okay. But that was nothing back then. It was like, that was a failure. That was like, what did I come here for? I invested in this company. Yeah. I'm a partner and I know what's going on. And this is where the wedge between me and Joe Donahue occurs. Okay. I think you met Joe. He's a salt of the earth guy. I
think you're still friends with him now, aren't you?
Yeah, we've had some ups and downs.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But I'll always have a lot of respect for him. And his wife, Kathy, worked for us. Great family, great people. And he shouldn't have been involved in it. And he should have gotten me out of it too. Sure. So now things
Is this where it goes south?
So now it starts to go south because what happens is I decide, fuck this. Like, I could have had $1 million payday. Now, all these other firms are going on. There's just craziness. So this is where the post-Jordan Belfort era starts because Jordan gets arrested. Now, Jordan's story's out in Long Island.
Right? Yeah.
And everything shifts to lower Manhattan. And there's a million Jordan Belforts. I mean, he was a big
Right.
name, but there's Al Palagonia, there's Ian Hosang, there's these guys at Hanover's Throwing Me. Guys are making $500,000 a month.
Yeah.
Palagonia was doing $1 million a month.
Who's the guy with the garbage bag full of cash?
I don't know. So we go to this firm, kind of lose my way and go to this firm, Toluca Pacific.
Yeah.
And there was one goal, to get that $1 million that I didn't make.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I meet this guy, Al Chalem, who is connected to several mob families at the time. And he actually was instrumental with getting us out of the other firm, because at that time, every firm had to have a connection to a mafia family.
Really?
Yeah. And if you didn't, you had a problem. And you were there was things that they were going to do to your stocks, to your people. It was real. It was a real threat. No different than a bookmaker trying to open up shop on Bloomfield Ave.
But you wouldn't think of that on Wall Street.
You would not.
No. Yeah.
And this is why
they were smart too.
It's called Beneath the Street.
Yes.
It's the title. And so I go there and we make a ton of money. We have and there's craziness going on in there.
Okay.
I remember already gunning.
Yeah.
I mean, there's sex in the office. There's smoking weed. There's guys walking on cliffs, betting each other. It was it was like a 3-ring circus.
Yeah.
Right. And, I'm not going to go through all, but we knew we had to get out of there, and getting out of there was trying to escape the mob. And that created a whole firestorm where I had to make some alignment to get out of there, pay a lot of money to get out of there. But the guy,
is this real?
yes, real. So the guy I'm working for is a guy by the name of Al Chalem.
Mm-hmm.
And so as we go into, they call it a sit down.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what it was. And you have
This is when you're supposed to cross your leg like this.
So I was told, don't talk unless you're asked the question.
Yeah.
But when
How old are you at this point?
I'm 25.
Jeez,
25.
So much has happened.
I got a black Benz. I mean, I got a townhouse. I got boxes of cash.
Right.
There's a lot of side deals you're making on Wall Street too. That's a whole other element to it, right? So, we work everything out, but going into it, the person who was advocating for me, and I'm not going to mention names, but he said, "Tell me what's up." I said, "I'm going to tell you. This guy is the worst human being. He fucks everybody over. He doesn't pay the rent.
Yeah.
He doesn't pay the phone bill. He doesn't pay this. They're going to find him shot dead one day, and they're never going to find the killer. That's how bad he is, right?" And I never say that about anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we end up parting ways. I actually end up owing this guy, Al Chalem, a lot of money to exit, but I just wanted to start over. I
wanted a fresh start.
Yeah. And I was going legit, like Johnny Dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I get out of there, and that was 1997 now. And the market's
So money wise,
still going up.
you paid the mob off whatever they needed, and now you paid this guy. Are you square one with money, or are you okay at this time?
No, I'm on the balls of my ass.
Okay.
Because you're spending, and you now
have money coming in.
Yeah, once the money stops coming in, and you're starting to spend, and I got a house now, and I got bills, and but I had hope. And when you have hope, I remember sitting there with one of our brokers, and he's like, "I've never been so broke, but we're going into the new year." I guess it was 1997 was the new year. And he's like, "I never felt so positive about what we're doing," because it was just us, and I was the franchise president of a firm, but I was running my own thing, and that's where I legitimately said, "I'm going to do things the right way. I'm only going to buy the companies that I believe in.
Yep.
It's not going to be about profit. It's going to be about respect
and relationships
and building clients that we have loyalty to," and that's the path I took from that point on. And now, along with all this, I was very blessed because I get into the market in 93, 94, it starts to go up. 95, it's the greatest year in the S&P 500. It lasts till 99. I mean, I have the greatest run in the stock market anyone could ever have coming in, kind of like it is today.
Right.
And
what's your past catch up to you?
Well, I built this huge company.
Yeah.
And now there's the Business Week article comes out, which was kind of like the mob on Wall Street. Business Week was the preemptive Wall Street publication back then before the internet. And they do a 2-part series, and it's all the people that I was doing business with.
Wow.
And a memorandum comes down from the mob. like for real, that no more Wall Street business. They knew that they were coming after them because once it becomes public, there's congressional hearings.
Right.
So this is much more. A lot of it did start from Jordan Belfort. The book Beneath the Street, so much research that went into this that I found out it's all connected. And there's, you talk about like, I always compare it to the movie Casino and everybody gets arrested. There was hundreds of people. There was one arrest, the largest securities fraud had over 100 people.
Wow.
And there was several of them, but I kind of escaped because I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And I'm staying under the radar.
Okay.
And I broke off. And at the time, Al Shalem, my ex-boss, he's in the center of it. And it's very possible I would have gotten indicted at that firm when I left.
If you didn't break off?
Yeah. Well, then there was a big event that happened in 1999 after that article and the investigation. And it's more detailed in the book, but Al Shalem in late 1999 was brutally murdered in his home in Colts Neck, New Jersey. It was a high-profile event. It was all over CNBC, and they still haven't found the killer.
Wow.
Come on.
And it was over a stock deal, and and I get into it in the book. I think they know who did it.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a need for a fruitful prosecution, but it's been 25 years. Asbury Park Press still writes articles about it. They never found the killer. And he was brutally shot in his eyes and his mouth and his ears. And there was a message because he was a rat.
Yeah.
And it sent shock waves through Wall Street for like normal people. Like if you cooperate, you could die. You could die.
Shit.
So when did things go bad for you?
So everything, it starts, the market crashes, the dot-com bust happens in early 2000.
Okay.
And, we were riding high. Everything was great. And then that starts and almost every penny stockbroker, because they're living high in the hog, are pretty much kind of falling out of business because they're going bankrupt. There's not a lot of opportunities to make money.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, as we're getting out of it, 9/11 comes.
Oh, wow.
We think, we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. It's the train coming back, and it hits us again, 9/11, 2001. And we go into what we call a double dip recession. And now there's really not anybody else standing in the penny stock world. But somehow we are. Sometimes we stay very nimble. You know me, I'm resourceful.
Yeah.
I didn't overspend. And I pivot to this hedge fund. Actually, Joe Donahue got me back into an institutional product that was kind of uncorrelated to stocks. And we pivot, and I start coming out here and doing more business on the West Coast. And that's in 2002. And things are going swimmingly. I'm like reinventing myself.
Right.
And
Did you say swimmingly?
yeah, going swimmingly.
That's amazing.
I mean, they are. Though, but I was like, hey, here, we went through this horrible period, and here we are. And now, 2004, we get raided. We get a knock on the door, my office, my house, and there's a start of an investigation.
Wow.
So that's it.
Yep, that was in 2004. I was living out here.
So you get arrested.
Well, so the funny thing is, not the funny thing, we were very much prepared. I was very compliant oriented. I always said I knew the securities laws better than anybody. Now, up until this point, I never had a blemish on my securities license at all. There was SEC audits, NASD back then, FINRA now, state, and everything was totally clean. But a lot of the guys that had gotten arrested and got convicted, and they were doing a lot of time. My ex-boss, Tony Marciano from A.S. Goldman, got 10 to 30 years. And they basically had the prosecutor come in and look at everybody that was connected to those firms.
Yep.
And they said, who's left? There wasn't a lot of us. I was sticking out like a sore thumb. And they said, let's go after him.
Yep. So they go after you.
Yep.
You get put in Rikers Island.
I get no bail. I get put on Rikers Island. All my assets are frozen.
Yep.
I'm not found guilty of anything yet. My whole life is over within like 24 hours.
How long are you in Rikers Island?
The first time, so we go in for the bail hearing, and the judge the DA has all these documents. They're talking. I'm like, what are they talking about? Come in, there's these lights like we have here. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, is this big of a deal? And they're sketching the pictures of us for the paper in the morning. And the judge goes, they asked for $10 million bail. And my bail bondsman is there. And I think I'm going home.
Yeah.
And he's like, my lawyer's like, don't worry about it. So he starts to give the bail argument. And the judge says, I'm going to cut you off right there. I'm remanding Janish and my co-defendant at the time, Joe Burrell, and I'm remanding Burrell. And there was just like a gasp in the whole courtroom. No, it's never happened before. No bail. And the Burrell's lawyer says, Judge, how dare you remand my client? Even give a bail argument. He goes like, oh yeah, you're right. He lets him talk. He goes, Janish is remanded, Burrell $10 million. That was it. I'm next thing you know, I'm going on a bus to Rikers Island.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, how? What? Like, this is the Twilight Zone.
Let me ask you this question, and I know how you are, but I've never asked this. So you're wondering, as you're on that bus and you're saying to yourself, how did this happen? But at what point do you say it's happening and I got to change my mindset? Like, did you ever have that conversation to yourself?
No, yeah, immediately. You're in a jungle.
Wow.
Rikers Island is, I was in a building with 3,000 inmates and there was 3 white people in there. It's gang, it's infested with gangs. But you know what? And that was the whole point. I always say the higher the bail, the weaker the case.
Right.
We were prepared. We had a compliance team. We did not have the hallmarks of those other cases. I intended to go to trial.
Right.
But there was 260 boxes of evidence. There was no way. They weren't ever going to let me go to trial. Finally, I get a bail. It's $5 million. And my family works to get this done. So I'm on there for 120 days. I bail out. And it's in my bail bondsman, Ira Judelson's book. He's the bail bondsman to the stars. And he writes in his book that they asked him what was the largest bail. And he said, stockbroker Chris Janish. They never wrote a bigger insurance bond for a criminal state proceeding in history than my bond in 2006.
That's
the largest.
Insane.
Wow.
Insane.
And, John Gotti got tried in New York too. Got arrested in New York. Not only federal. Federal's a little different. They had higher bails, but you can sign it's easy, but never before in New York State or any state criminal history was it ever posted that big.
So this book is about this whole story, obviously.
Yeah. No,
this is totally different.
It's a fictional story.
Okay.
So total fictional story. Beneath the Street is the real story. So what happens is I do get bailed out. You'll remember the story. I have a house in Arizona.
Yep.
We're trying to sell it just to get the market's falling here. I tell my lawyer, make sure you let the DA know about the house.
Right.
He does. They say, no, you're trying to flee. They throw me back in. That's when my life was over. It was such a sham.
Oh.
And you knew what the corruption was.
Yep.
The judge told me, Mr. Janish, if you're found guilty, I'm giving you 10 to 30 years. And I'm like, you haven't even heard the evidence yet.
Wow, that's awful.
But you learn quickly. So to answer your question, you learn quickly, like, this is the game.
Just have to play the game.
Yeah.
Right.
Otherwise, you're going to die.
Yeah.
And what and they were trying to punish me. They were trying to get me to cooperate to all these things. By the way, I never cooperated in my case. Took a high plea, high restitution, $5 million restitution.
Wow.
So,
first off, you're battling in Rikers and you're battling your case.
And my co-defendant kills himself.
That's right.
He should have never been in there. It was just wild, Wow. And if you were never in Rikers, the explanation will never be satisfactory.
Jesus.
The people that were there, they saw it. They know what it's like.
Yeah.
And
so how long were you there?
It ended up being 2 years pre-trial. And because we couldn't fight the case.
Right.
We couldn't try the case. It was a joke, and I just knew. And I just laid up and I just, I just became accustomed to being a jailer. Yeah. And adapting. Jesus. But the interesting thing is, so the DA would take me to, the investigators to look at evidence. They're like, well, how are you handling that? They thought like I was going to get beat up or I was going to go running back to them. Oh, please, help me. I'll tell you whatever I want to tell. But I actually got along with all the inmates.
That's awesome.
Great.
Yeah.
And what was funny was when this was in the news and the papers. Like, oh, you guys were on the news last night. You're on the papers, and there's guys bringing me our newspapers. They want me to sign it. What the DA didn't realize was they created this notoriety.
Right.
When I had street cred when I walked in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
And they were like, they wanted to know me. They gravitated to me.
Yeah.
So, and some of them looked out for me.
Yeah.
And I got schooled by some great guys. And, you know, after 2 years, it was like, okay, I got 2 years. I only got a little bit more time. It was all a strategy on their part and my part. And then you go upstate and it's a whole different vibe up there, but it's over. You're looking at going home, and vindication comes about at the very end. I have this crazy dream.
Yeah.
And, you know, Jules divorces me. She hates that part of it.
Right.
And I start this new life. And the dreams are so wild because, you know, you never want to be in prison as like a sex offender.
Yeah.
So it was like a fear, like I'll come back, but never as a sex offender.
Yeah.
And the dream is pure fiction. And I wrote it in the last 40 days, handwritten.
That's crazy.
And I produced it. And, you know, it was a passion project for me. It rose to number 6 new releases on Amazon.
That's insane.
Right?
Okay,
Great
so
book.
Vindication. Now, Beneath the Streets, because we don't have, we
have a lot
already,
of time. Yep.
we're done. Beneath the Streets, plug it.
Let's
What are we
go.
looking
Beneath
to
the
do?
Streets sounds more like a series than an actual like novel.
So are we pitching Beneath the
Let's
Streets?
talk about Beneath. Yeah, we're pitching. So we're pitching. It's done.
Can I be in this?
So
Pretty good on camera.
Beneath the Show. Maybe that's part 2, right?
Okay, yeah.
So I have a co-author, Christina Hart. She's an amazing writer, and I said, you got to do this book for me. She writes a lot of dark stuff, and she just got so involved. I did the research, and you know, it's my writing, but it's her style,
Right.
And it's not another Wall Street story. It's kind of segues after the Jordan Belt for Wolf of Wall Street.
Mm-hmm.
That genre, though, the people that follow that Sopranos crowd, but it's a 1990s, early 2000 New York City pop culture story.
Okay.
It's about what the city was about.
Right.
You know, I call it the era of sextasy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It was ecstasy and
totally.
sex and you know, like the 70s were sex, drugs, rock and roll.
Right.
The 70s and then the 80s had the AIDS, and it was just a great time in the city. The Yankees were winning. 1994, I think, was the greatest year of
Knicks
our
were doing well.
Knicks, Rangers had 50 playoff games. The brokers are fuel money. You got 19, 20-year-old kids driving, you know, Mercedes-Benz. They're parked outside, and, you know, you could smoke still in bars. Well, I'm going to Morton's with Joe Donahue almost every other night, and we're having steaks and cigars, and then we're sitting courtside at the Knicks game.
Right.
And it's just like, doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And then the uniqueness, I think, of Beneath the Street is what happened to me with the bail and that story.
Like the gritty dark side.
Okay.
So it's really, when I got in there, I was like, man, this is like Wall Street. They fucking manipulate us.
Yeah.
And we're just, you know, we're just like cattle. They're moving big money in
You're
prison.
pawns.
We're pawns.
Yeah.
And I go, the corruption on Wall Street isn't any different than in the criminal justice.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's a big element of the book.
Sick. Okay.
And so I feel like, you know, and so the pitching process sucks.
Mm-hmm.
It is an age of content. So people want content, but there's so much. And we've been very selective of what agents we've gone to that we think it's going to fit. Nobody's taken a bite. We still have a couple out there.
All right.
But I want people to hear it as opposed to reading it. And I think they're missing the boat. And, you know, one of my, you know, I'm the type of person, it's like, even though I'm old school, I'm also new school where I want to fuck the agents. You don't see the story.
Yeah, exactly.
I do it myself.
Right.
Like you did here, right?
Yeah.
I get my own website.
All right, let's do it.
I get my own
We're
portal.
doing Beneath the Streets.
Yeah.
You're
And
right?
when people
Are you guys
hear
in?
your story,
Jeff's in.
I got a question for
Elise
you.
is in.
Let's just say this went to Netflix, right?
Yeah.
And it was a Netflix series.
Yeah.
What would you say the first episode would be like?
Oh, that's a great question. You know, I think the bail, we start the book with the bail, the remand, because it was just so crazy. I mean, now there's no bail, right? And there's
So
no
you're starting
active-
it there and then going backwards to how it got there?
But I do think from what I'm learning is this, so it's a 200-word novel, 200,000-word novel. It needs to get cut down, but it's built like a series.
Okay.
And I think the murder of Al Chalem is a bombastic story. Like, and I don't know specifics. I wasn't there, but I read so much. I know how it went down, and Al was duped. Al was very sharp. He let people in his house he trusted.
Yeah.
And that story was really the hallmark. There's a lot of other high profile names and events that happen. And Christina and I believe nobody's connected the story. It's not really about me.
Right.
It's about the era. It's about me.
It's about connecting the dots.
Connecting the dots, and nobody's connected it. So if you think about, hey, I reached out to Joel Gottler, who is the agent for Wolf of Wall Street. And I got him and to look at it, and I said, if you liked Wolf of Wall Street,
You'll love this.
You'll love Beneath the Street.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
And it's a different story though. But that's really, I would say the first episode would be that murder scene.
You're gonna get something.
I think this is going to really help.
I do too, and I'm taking credit for this shit.
No,
and
you
I want to be in this.
Paint a picture, right?
You painted. You are phenomenal. See, you didn't need me to lead or and
we kept it under 2 hours and 30 minutes.
It's over what we're supposed to do.
Because I get it done in 15.
And I only drank one final fight.
There you go, Chris. I love you. Thank you for being on here. We need a part 2 with you.
Let's do it.
But I think you're going to have a series. I know you're going to have a series.
I think people are going to hear the passion and understand your knowledge. And I think somebody is going to see the benefit of that and get in contact with you with this.
I hope so. That's why I'm here and to support you guys. I think you're a star.
Thank you.
And you know what? The analytics say he's a star too.
I tell you, he's my
star rising.
He is.
So support you guys. I'd love
you,
to be a
Chris.
sponsor.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is the start of it, and we're going to see where it goes. And I do feel the story needs to be told.
Yeah.
I've been hesitant because, I never cooperated. I never implicated anybody in a crime. I have a lot of good friends. I've waited a long time, make sure that nobody can get in trouble by the story.
Right.
And it's really just about that history. It's history. And I want to tell the story, and I'm going to do it one way or the other.
Yeah.
I just don't know which way. And this is the start of it right here.
I love it. Chris, you're
amazing.
awesome.
One
you
thing
rock.
before you go, hold on
All right.
quick. Here's a new brand that's coming out, Old School.
Oh, I love it.
My God, so old
And
school.
before you leave, if you don't mind, giving us an old school memory.
An old school memory. Well, oh God, there's so many of them. I would, going back to the 90s and that era, I remember when, I had the parade. I was, I had a corner office in the parade, the Rangers parade's coming up my office. And I'm like, man, I'm 23 at the time. I'm at a corner office on Wall Street, and here's the parade. But I would say the 1996 World Series when the Yankees won and Wade Boggs was on the horse going around the field, and the city was alive. And, that's an old school.
That's
memory I remember.
I love it.
Being there with my friends and seeing them win, and the horses on the field and the city just alive and energetic. And we don't see it anymore. And that's what I want the story to be about.
Yeah.
The good times, the fun times of what New York City was in our generation.
That energy. Right.
Hey, listen, I don't think you can end something like that any better.
I love it.
He's the best, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you, all of you
guys.
guys.
And that's a wrap with our local legend, Chris Janish.
Thank you.